Okay, so this can go a little further down, and this pipeline, after the decision is done, it might just call the route node here directly. So a route node would represent call to that one endpoint. Okay, route node would represent that call to that one endpoint, where because see, what route node will represent is like a request came in. Let's say this is OSB. Request went out, and we got the response, and response went out. So whenever you use a route node, that would mean this, that original request that came out, for that, it has been routed out. It has gone out. Okay, when and then uh, uh, so when and so and this will what this will represent is now the response has been received, and now this point is like, now the response is being like sent back to the client, who invoked the original OSB. Is it making sense, guys?
Yeah, Manish. Yes. So, like that route node is a leaf node. There cannot be any node which is following route, right?
Yeah, because once the route node is called, so far the service was flowing this way, right? It was flowing in this direction. Once the route node is called, now it is backwards, right? Now it is backwards because now the response is received. Now it is going back, and now the response will go out. Okay. I mean, yeah. Go ahead. If someone had a question, hello.
So I cannot have any question.
Oh, okay. Just think of in a very simple way. Okay, as you do more examples, it will get little more this whole thing little more. It will make sense. But think of route node as there is no processing after that, right? So there is the start node, and then whenever you have used a route node, there is nothing coming after that. Okay, there is no more nodes coming after that. Okay, so once it in the flow has come to the route node, route node would be configured to call some service, so that service will be called, and then once the response is received, then things are like starting to go back. Okay, now say for example, this is the pipeline pp1, and then we had like pp2, and then this is the branch node, let's say, right? And this is how this is route, this is how something you have. So once the message, let's say, processing like comes to this route node, after that it is starting to go back up this way, this way, and this way, and then then it will exit. Okay, but one thing you have to remember is, like, say for a pipeline, you're in let's say you are doing a service call out, right? So you would add a service call out here. So you are calling some external service, and then you get the response back. And after that, again, you can add another service call out or do a few other things. So that that is like it will allow you to do add other things. So at a high level, your entire message flow is kind of broken up, between these four nodes: start node, routing node, pipeline pair, and the branch node. Okay. Um, and what happens inside those, we'll get to that. Okay, but your entire message flow, yeah, like we were just saying that, let's say in the branch node, we basing on the type of customer, you have to call this service or the other service, use the branch node, and if it is that customer, you have this branch, and if it's this customer, you have this other branch. And then under that branch node, will after that processing in that branch node, it will lead to your route node. And once you hit the route node, there is nothing, no more further processing after that. It has come to the end of request processing. Okay, and then after that, just the response processing will begin, right? Once you say, if you think of this, if this is the request, right, going through OSB, and this is the response going through. Once your route node is hit, it's the end of this processing. Okay, and the response processing will begin after that. Okay, so that's one simple way of looking at the message flow with these nodes. So there is anytime because before this service going through OSB, the client might have been directly calling the backend service. Now, so think of that anytime in the message flow that backend service has to be called, that would be done through the route node. So between the start node and the route node, if the service is going through OSB, it is going through with some reason, maybe some mediation needs to be done, right? So all that mediation will be split between those two nodes, right? The branch node and the pipeline pair node, and all of that will be done, and ultimately the route node will be called. Okay. Example. Okay. That's okay. So here, so start node again is an entry point. All message flows begin with start node, and this is something that cannot be modified, right? So if you go to anytime you create a simple let's say a proxy service. By default, what you get here, is like the start node. Okay, and there is nothing else. Now, let's say if you deploy a service just like this, what we call that is like it's like in echo mode. That would mean that whatever request is sent in, the same will be sent back as response. Okay, because there's nothing else going on, right? There is not being routed, nothing. It message like came in, and the same message will like go out as response. Okay, so this is your start node. Then like an echo service, new proxy service echoes the request as response. If no route node after pipeline pair node, then the message will be echoed back to the client. Now let's say even if you add a pipeline pair here, right? A pipeline pair, and do bunch of things by adding a lot of other actions here. You're ultimately not again calling the routing side or any backend service here. Okay, so whatever you do on the request pipeline and response pipeline, the final value, final values of the variables at the end of the response pipeline will be sent back. The response will be built using those, and then and the response will be sent back accordingly. Okay, so I can't think of a situation where let's say all we are doing is you are just taking the client input and doing some some processing where you are not even having to, let's say all you are doing is enriching the message and you are not even having to do any extra processing. Then maybe the route node may be missing, but other than